We'll call, you got your recorder. Good evening, everyone. We'll call the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting to order on this Tuesday, May the 2nd, 2023 at 6 p.m. If you'll all stand for invocation first.
Lord Jesus, we come to you this evening and we thank you for this beautiful day and another opportunity to represent our beautiful town. We ask that everything be done according to your perfect will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may have a seat. Before we get in the minutes, we'll do a roll call. And you just need to answer present. Alderman Wood.
Present.
Alderman Carter.
Present.
Alderman Maynard.
Present.
Alderman Morgan.
Present.
Alderman Reeves.
Present.
All are present. We do have a quorum for tonight's meeting. Approval of the minutes is up. All of you have either picked up your packet earlier in the week or received it by email or a little of both. Do we have a motion to approve minutes?
I make a motion.
Motion by Alderman Reeves.
I'll second it.
That was second by Alderman Maynard. And any call for any questions? Any discussion? Okay, for approval, Alderman Carter. Alderman Wood.
Aye.
Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Maynard.
Yes.
Alderman Reed.
Yes, sir.
Minutes are approved as read and posted there. Additions to the agenda. Alderman, do you have any addition to tonight's agenda? Okay, all right. There are no resolutions to approve tonight. We'll move into ordinances. The first ordinance I would like for you to look at, and I will make a recommendation for approval, the telecommunication structure. You have that in front of you. I got mine kind of pieced out here. Okay, telecommunication structure. Yeah, this is 2023-06, ordinance 2023-06. Okay. Should be in your packet there. Everybody have it in front of them. Anyone missing? Okay, we're all together. Okay, so telecommunication structures, ordinance 2023-06. I would make a recommendation that the board adopt this ordinance. Are there any motions for approval?
I make a motion.
Motion by Alderman Reeves. Any second?
I second.
Second by Alderman Morgan. Discussion. I'm sure you have questions about this particular ordinance. I can share a few things with you, but we'll entertain a few questions. Let me draw your attention to section 2, number 4. Section 2, number 4. That's on, should be on page 2. It reads, the uses permitted on appeal. All telecommunication structures are only allowed in mixed-use district as uses permissible on appeal. So just to reiterate what the legal standing is, that most of our town is a mixed-use district. Behind you is all the different districts that we have. Most of them are mixed-use. We don't have a specific residential other than River Residential 1, River Residential 2. So what this means is that if someone contacts us and would like to buy a property or lease a property to build one of these towers on, it means that they will have to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals to request approval to build this structure on the land they have leased or the land that they own. Okay, so that really gives the Zoning Board of Appeals is like the final word if you vote on this and approve it tonight, this will take it out of the board's hands other than monitoring what goes on with the telecommunication structure. And of course, you would be notified as a board member that someone is planning to build a structure, but the approval of such structure goes to the Board of Zoning Appeal. Also, number 5, any prohibited uses. Any tower that is not specifically permitted as used permitted on appeal. So the tower must be permitted on appeal. Let me get you to look back up to number 3, plan requirements, letter A. I've highlighted in that last part of that sentence, 2 future antenna arrays and accessory structures must be available. So let's say Comcast comes in and wants to put up a cell tower. They can put their own antenna up, but they also have to provide space for 2 additional companies to put their antenna. Shared use is what will be required. So you're not going to have, 3 different companies building towers in Saltillo. We want to kind of, I think, as a board, watch that closely as far as how many towers are built and where they are. There's a couple of other things in here. If you look page 3, number 8, all new telecommunication tower structures not on an existing utility structure, such as our water tower, within the town of Saltillo shall be designed to accommodate 3 antennas. So when you look at page 2 and look at page 3, it sounds funny. One of them says 2, one of them says 3. It's the company that owns the tower, their antenna, and 2 additional antennas from any other company that comes in and say, hey, we want to build a cell phone tower. They will first have to use this antenna or partner with the water tower. Y'all follow what I'm describing? Okay. Letter C, for all of our protection and what we've had recently, minimum wind speed of 70 miles an hour. That's kind of a standard in that business. Here's the important part, number 9, setbacks, letter A. I've highlighted on my sheet, setback from property line, distance equal to 100% of the height of the tower. That's from the security fence, not the base of the tower, from the security fence, 100% height. And there's some other information there, but if you look at, I think, page 4, number 11, height. No tower shall exceed 150 feet. So there you don't have Verizon come out and want to build a 200-foot tower that you can see from Clifton, but remember, the height and fall distance have got to be 100%. So if you got a 150-foot tower, it's got to be able to fall freely 150 foot to avoid any damage to house, property, highways, that kind of stuff. Okay. So that's a pretty stiff distance for most of them. Some other things you may see there, I will look at number 14, landscaping. There must be a 4-foot wide landscape strip around the perimeter of the security of the fence, and it goes on to explain that it's got to be at least 4 foot wide, 8 foot high. It's got to be natural environmental conditions. So they just can't come out here and put an ugly chain link fence up around it, and then there you see it. Okay. I know y'all read through this, just a couple of highlights for you. Look at number 16 on, I think it's probably page 5 and the final page. Lighting. Towers. No artificially lighted towers shall be permitted in the town of Saltillo. So what is generally described, somebody puts up a 150-foot tower and they put a huge light shining down on their security buildings, and it just shines all over town. You can't do that. But whatever lighting that the FFA will require is what will have to be there. So like a flashing beacon will most likely at 150 feet will be required. Any questions about any of that? That's just a couple of highlights I thought were important to our town and progress. Any questions? Any further discussion? We'll call for a question on this ordinance. Alderman Wood.
Yes.
Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Maynard.
Yes.
Alderman Reeves.
Yes, sir.
Alderman Carter.
Yes.
The ordinance for cell phone towers, 2023-03, has passed. Just a side note for everyone that's here, we have two members of our Board of Zoning Appeals here. That is Mr. Turner and Ms. Kimball. So if this comes up, application for a tower, it will go to them, okay? And then they will be looking at this ordinance and how it fits in and location. And there's some other things you read in this ordinance about location and that kind of thing. So, you know, we don't want somebody to come right downtown and put one right here in the middle of the, you know, the downtown area, so. Okay, all right. The next ordinance that we need to look at is the amending the purchasing policy and procedures. I will tell you that we have previously approved a purchasing policy, and that it was limited to a $2,500 expenditure by the mayor without approval. And I have found in, you know, in our past, the mayor thought he had that as well. There was never an ordinance for that. So I am making a recommendation tonight to increase that $2,500 spending limit to $5,000. And you have that purchasing policy and amendment in front of you. Just to let you know and remind you that the previous mayor believed that this authority was already in place, but it was not. It wasn't there because we didn't have a written ordinance. It is legal, and it is following the state purchasing policy. So I would make a recommendation that we increase that spending for a single item. In the second paragraph, the purchasing agent should have the authority to make a purchase, leases, and lease purchases of more than $1,000 and less than $5,000, singly or in aggregate during the fiscal year, and excerpt otherwise provided therein. So, make a recommendation. Would there be a motion for this order?
Yeah, I make a motion.
A motion by Alderman Reeves, second.
I'll second it.
Second by Alderman Morgan. Discussion.
Maynard.
I'm sorry, Maynard. Second by Alderman Maynard. Any discussion? Okay. I thought there may be a few questions. It is what it is. I think one of these issues that I will mention to you in the discussion, that when we're trying to repair our doctor's office, the job is probably gonna cost $4,000 or so, but the purchasing policy that we had in place, that is currently in place, is about 25 pages of an application to make a bid on that project. So what I found, a few contractors I talked to said, kind of interested, but it's really not enough money involved for us to do all of these additional things. So, you know, some of the jobs we'll need to have done around town is I say minimal to some degree. But certainly anything above $5,000 will have to come to the board for approval. And of course, even the $5,000 has to have 3 bids. Either could be formally or informal. That's where the difference is. They can say, hey, here's my price, and you get the 3 prices, then you select them from there. But that's what that is. So, all right. No other questions, discussions, ma'am?
I have a question. I didn't see anything, and maybe not, this is not the place
Yeah.
where it would, that it makes mention of them having to be bonded or them, or, you know, any of that
Yeah.
kind of language.
So in this purchasing policy, the amending or the increase in the amount on this single purchase does not require bonding. What this says is it gives the mayor the authority to do business in behalf of the town with whomever is identified with the best price, the best resources, things like that. So if you wanted somebody to build a staircase in the gym, and it's only gonna cost $4,000, it's not in this policy required that they be bonded. But when you move above $5,000, we go back into the state purchasing requirements, and anything above $5,000 requires a formal sealed bid. And in that 25-page bid document, it states in there that you have to be bonded and licensed and all those kind of things. So that's where that will come into play. Any other question? That was a great question. And not to say that somebody won't be bonded for
But, I
$5,000,
mean,
some
when you
people
look for-
are, yeah,
When you look for something yourself, that's,
Yeah.
you know,
yeah, that's right.
you want someone that,
Mhm.
I think, maybe, and other people would know more than I, but someone that is bonded is gonna maybe be, a more qualified, maybe not, I don't
Absolutely,
know,
absolutely.
person. And so,
Mhm.
in the past, that's, I think, been one of the concerns. We used the cheapest maybe and the quickest,
Yeah,
and then we maybe didn't get what we thought we were getting, or
Yeah.
it didn't last as long as we thought it was. I mean, how many times have we fixed that doctor's office roof, and,
Yeah.
you know?
yeah.
So I think bonding is an important issue to me.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're right on point with that, because it is an issue, and a lot of businesses and business owners, they are bonded. But yes, there are some people in our community that do different types of work that may not be bonded. Be it somebody that works in landscaping, they may not necessarily be bonded, but they might be.
Well,
It
they
just
do,
depends.
people do roofs,
Yeah,
and they're not bonded, but
That's
if they
right.
fall off, then whose problem
that's right.
is it?
that's right. So what this ordinance does is gives me the authority to do that kind of business and make an agreement up to $5,000. Okay, so great point. So any other discussion? Okay. All right, we'll call for question. Alderman Morgan?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Alderman Maynard?
Yes.
Alderman Reed?
Sir.
Alderman Carter?
Yes.
Alderman Wood?
Yes.
Okay. That, change to the person policy was approved. Okay, ordinance 2304, adult-oriented businesses. Just to give you a preface on this, we were informed by MTask and the people who assist us in making decisions for the city, and also our city planner, Shelton Merrill, that this ordinance is for specific to adult businesses, and I know you've already have read it. You may have some questions, but I'll make a recommendation that this ordinance be adopted. Do I get a motion?
I make a motion we adopt it. I read it, and I think the changes that we had talked about last month, when we went through it, because we went through it pretty.
Let me pause you right there.
Okay.
When we get to question and
Okay,
discussion, then
I'm
bring it
sorry.
up. So
I make a motion
there
we
is a
accept,
motion
yes.
on the floor by Alderman Maynard.
Maynard.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Alderman Reed. Okay, I'm gonna go back to Alderman Maynard for discussion. Go ahead and
Well, I
elaborate.
was just gonna say, I think that the changes that we talked about last month when we tabled it to this month reflect on there, because I think it helps cover us as far as our town on adult businesses.
Any other discussion? I will, as you think about it, direct your attention to page, I think it's 4, section 4, page 4, section 4. That chapter 8, provision governing industrial districts, number 2, uses permitted on appeal of the zoning ordinance of Saltillo, Tennessee, be amended, including this new letter A to take the existing letter out and become as read. And so, first thing I want you to understand is that it's a use on appeal, and an adult-oriented business may only be established in the commercial property, which is on this board, excuse me, not commercial, the industrial property that's on this board in purple. Most people know it as the old factory. That is the only location an adult-oriented business within this ordinance can be located. But they just can't say, I'm gonna put a business over there. They've gotta present it to the Board of Zoning Appeal, and then the Board of Zoning Appeals will look at all these stipulations about what their business is, does, those kind of things, and they will have the decision making. So if you look at page 4, section 4, letter A, adult-oriented businesses provide these uses are setbacks a minimum distance of 1,000 feet from any residential or religious structure, in addition to any other safeguards and or criteria rendered by the Board of Zoning Appeal. So they will have complete control and say on allowing or not allowing adult-oriented business in that location. So of course, they can't be arbitrary and capricious and just say, no, you can't do it.
Right.
They have to have evidence that it is a situation where maybe they don't have a appropriate plan of business, or maybe they don't have it set back 1,000 feet from any structure, or they may not meet some other criteria. But it just can't be arbitrary and capricious. They would have to have a very strong evidence that this business should not be allowed. And a lot of it has to do with the morals and sanctity of our town and how they operate. And that would all come out through the Board of Zoning Appeal. So anyway, any further discussion on that?
Didn't we have, this is a revision of what
This
we
is
already
a
had?
revision.
Because we had that back a long time ago.
Well, I don't know. The planning commission just went over this last month in their planning commission. And so what was presented to us at the planning commission was passed with an amendment to it, which they had to do some other, like environmental landscaping kind of things to it. And so this was sent back to us. So as far as I know, adult-oriented businesses, this is the first time I have seen this one. Now, we may have had something early on that never went through the Board of Zoning Appeal. So-
I remember
Okay.
that
I'm not
working
Board of
on
Zoning
that
Appeal, the
years
planning commission.
back, and, you know, it was
Yeah,
not as detailed as this, but
I guess.
so this takes precedence on whatever was before.
Yes, yes. And part of the recommendation for adoption of this ordinance is that every town must have a location that these type of businesses may be allowed to operate. Otherwise, somebody could come in tomorrow and say, hey, I want to put an adult business on Main Street. We don't have anything that says they can't. And then we could get into court and it'll be a big battle with it. So by adopting this ordinance, we keep a lingerie parlor out of Main Street. So, you know, hanging the lingerie in the windows and all that kind of stuff, you avoid that right away because they can't be on Main Street. They can't be out, I would say, for example, Handy Corner. Somebody could buy that property and, hey, I'm gonna put up a little, you know, adult bar. Well, they can't do that out there because that's not commercial. I mean, that's not a industrial zone. So the only place right now we're limited to is that industrial property back here by the water tower.
But that could be changed. Can that be changed?
That,
Can they go to
when you say can that be changed, you talking about the location? The location of the business or the location of the zoning?
The zoning. And you're talking about the zoning?
I'm saying, right now, things can change just about any time. But, so right now, it can only be where the purple is. But if they came in and wanted.
Let me clarify.
Okay.
Right now, the adult business can be anywhere it wants to be, okay? This ordinance, if you approve this, the adult business can only be in the the industrial zone, okay? So, is that kind of clarified? So if you adopt this ordinance, means if somebody comes in and wants to establish an adult business, it can only be in that industrial zone. And you have a list of different types of businesses that are prone to that kind of activity. As of right now, there is no ordinance, and they could pop up on Main Street. And we did have a close call, I will tell you, on Main Street about adult business, that it was just a misunderstanding, and it wasn't, you know, it wasn't what they tried to portray. So, you know. So, any other questions? Great question. We'll call for, question on this. Alderman Maynard,
Yes.
Alderman Reeves,
Yes, sir.
Alderman Carter,
Yes.
Alderman Wood,
Yes.
Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-04 has been approved. If we will, for just a side note here for a second, well, this is the mayor's report, I believe, right here anyway. No, we got another ordinance we'll discuss here in just a second. Let me just, side note for a second. Board of Zoning Appeals has two major ordinances that they're gonna have to deal with if anybody comes to town on either one. Okay, so we're gonna rely on having good people like Mr. Turner and Ms. Kimbrell, and I need a third person on that board. I have been recruiting a few folks. I haven't had any takers. So if we have members of our community who would like to assist on the Board of Zoning Appeals and be a member of that board, we are looking for people who are active citizens, who are registered voters, and who have lived in Saltillo for at least 1 calendar year. So I've asked a few people, I'm recruiting. A lot of you are my recruiters as well. You make referrals, and anyone that may be around. Okay. So we're looking for that third party. It can be 3 to 5 members. In most towns, they do 3-member board for them. Okay. All right. Okay. So
It's Diana and Steve. Yeah, that's what we need to learn. Miss Betty's on the other one.
okay. Let's move right on. Food truck ordinance. I know some of you are just looking at this tonight. This was not in your packet. I know you're just seeing it for this night. It is a little lengthy. A lot of it is definition. I would make a motion that the town of Saltillo adopt ordinance 2023-08. This is reference to food truck operations in town, mobile food unit. I get a motion to adopt this ordinance.
I so moved.
All right, motion by Alderman Carter.
I guess I can second it before we talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I have a lot of questions
All right,
about this.
so you are seconding this motion?
Yeah, so we can
All
talk
right,
about it.
second by Alderman Maynard. Discussion.
Well, I'll just tell you, I think this is pretty dang lengthy to just have a food truck. Now, I might be wrong, or, I mean, are we contemplating the idea of having, like some surrounding towns, small towns also have like food trucks let's just say, every Friday they have a food truck in downtown. Are we contemplating trying to go that way in this? Or is this something like when we have River Day, we have it, or if we have a, Arts and Crafts Festival, and we have a couple of food trucks? Is that, is there a direction we're heading, or is this like a generalized thing, because we charge them for River Day.
Yeah, yeah.
We charge them for.
Let me point out a couple of things for this for y'all. I know you just all have seen it briefly tonight. You read it
Right.
when you come in, so let me point out a couple of things for you. Let me see here. Hold on just a second. I'll find it here. Speaking to special events, let's see.
Third page.
Special events, third page, number 9. Special events, and when I say special events, I'm talking about Tennessee River Rendezvous, Poker Run, down on the boat ramp, barbecue festival coming in, River Day. So any kind of special event the town decides to do, it says specifically, a mobile food truck vendor participating in a special event shall comply with all rules, regulation, and requirements of the event and is exempt from having to obtain a mobile food vendor permit under this ordinance, okay? So what we've always been doing, you still always do with your festival, okay? So, so for those events, a vendor, let's say such as our Saltillo Pentecostal Church, they want to bring a truck or apparatus down to sell hamburgers out of
Correct.
at River Day, they can still do that.
Okay.
We know that has not changed anything. But the second part of your question, Alderman Maynard, is yes, we're going in a direction to try to prepare ourselves for any potential vendors coming in and stopping in front of the bank down here in the parking lot and just set up and start doing business. Because we are very limited on parking, number one, and they, right now, that parking lot is not belong to the water company. That's a parking space that belongs to the city.
Right.
So right now, somebody can come down on our square down here in town, and they can take up a few spots at the food truck. We don't have anything that says they can't do that. Now, of course, would we try to run them off without an ordinance? Probably so, because they're taking up the space, they didn't talk to anybody. So what this does is assure the town that if somebody wants to come to town, third part of your question, special Friday, food truck come in, or special Saturday, food truck want to come in, we want to recruit 3 or 4 food trucks, they have to have a permit from the city to operate, and they get 2 permits. They can get one that is just a carte blanche, 365 days a year permit, or they can get a 30-day permit. So if, let's say Tennessee River Pirate, I don't know if y'all all know them, I mean, they got great food, great barbecue sauce. If they say, hey, look, we want to come every Friday for a month, they will have to come, request a permit by the city. They have that permit, and then we will have to determine, I say we, the mayor will have to determine where they will be approved to set up. And then this ordinance, it establishes what they can and can't do. In other words, they can't play, music all day long. They can't impede traffic. They have to take care of their own water access and disposal. Let's say the property owned by Joe Brown. Y'all know who that is on Main Street. So right now, a vendor could come up here and they could pull off the street right there in front of Joe Brown's house, or not the lot, well, the house, and they could set up, start doing business. And we have no authority to say they can't do that. With this ordinance, it also establishes that if they want to do that and Joe Brown is cool with it, that they have to have a letter from Mr. Brown to say they can be on his property and operate a food truck. And so they can operate. So we're not eliminating that opportunity, but we are trying to control that a little bit for the city's advantage based on what's going on through the year, through the week, through the month. There are some other towns around us that have had some issues with food trucks, being in places that impede traffic, blocking traffic, that kind of thing. So that's what this is about. It's kind of future planning for our town.
But in the same breath, I want to say, I feel like there are small towns around us that have not had an issue with it. I think that if the city is gonna allow somebody to do that, we should have a designated spot, even if it's down here. I mean, like, if they wanna come every Friday for a month, then if they're in a spot that's, I'm just saying, I think other towns are benefiting from the food truck thing, very much, that are within 100 of the population of Saltillo.
Right. So operational requirements, there's some things in here, I was trying to go back and look, and about location. As of right now, I believe this, and I had to lay eyes on it right quick. It shall be unlawful for any, this is the number 9, section 2. Unlawful for any mobile food unit to operate within the corporate limits without first obtaining a permit in compliance with the provision of this ordinance of the town. The application, I'm just kind of reading through this aloud, that there's a spot in here that the mayor has the authority to approve their location. But I'm hearing you say you as a board may want to identify a specific location. Is that the way?
Well, I don't know that I'm saying that so much as I'm just saying, maybe there should be a designated spot. Maybe, I don't know, I'm just maybe talking.
Well, that's what this is for. I mean,
Also on this, it's saying that you can get a 30-day permit. Okay, if you do that and you're just coming on Fridays, are they gonna be guaranteed that they've been there the first of this month and they're not gonna come Friday and somebody else have their spot? Is that?
No, that is definitely not in this ordinance. So the 30-day permit is the 30 calendar days,
Okay,
and it is upon approval to come, and set up. So it's not saying, hey, you got a select spot to be at every Friday.
okay,
That's, that is not in ordinance.
okay.
So let's say they're coming, they have to buy a 30-day permit, minimum.
Yeah, right.
And let's say we're having another one of those, not the city, but the businesses in town have a Christmas bazaar, kind of thing like we did last year. So, and they're selling hot chocolate and popcorn. Or, we're not talking like the good food truck you're talking about, which their food's awesome. But, they pay $75 to come. That's, to me, that's a little
Well,
pricey.
let me clarify something for you, just in the first part of your statement. You said the event like we did with the Christmas bazaar.
But that wasn't a city event.
Yeah, but it was a special event.
Well, but we didn't,
We can
Carolyn
you can say we can
and Rebecca
classify.
did not take out or whomever that gets credit for, whomever. We didn't take out a special permit for that, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We just did that.
Well, Tennessee River Rendezvous didn't take out a special permit for that either, for their event. There is no permit to have a special
Oh.
event. Typically what happens, somebody contacts the mayor's office
Yeah.
and say, hey, we wanna do this event, can we do this? And that's basically about as official as we've been. Yeah.
Also, another thing, and I'm sure,
Well, let me go back to Alderwood just for a second. So, I'm having a little bit of a difficult time understanding your question, but I would say that bazaar, we've done it twice already. That is now kinda like the bazaar and parade. That's a special event, that's that whole day. So, that is exempt from any kind of permit requirement.
Okay, I got another scenario then.
All right.
Behind my store is my property,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, just like Joe's property, if somebody rents my building and wants to bring in a food truck, on my property, behind my building, then they're gonna have to follow with this application, the whole, whatever, 13 items here. Let me just say this, I would like more time to look at, I would like for us to, it might be best to table this until you've had time to really look at it. I'm sure this is what other people do, but, we want to encourage as many people to come and as many people to do as possible without making a problem.
Okay.
Our waterfront's great down there, if we could, even work the ordinance so that we don't make it so difficult for them to come, because they're not gonna come every weekend to Saltillo, I don't think. Now, they may to Parsons or to Savannah in a bigger place, but I don't think that we'll have,
All right, so let me just stop right here for a second. So Alderman Wood has requested that we table the decision on this ordinance to a later date. That request, with knowing that you just got this tonight, if you are in favor of tabling this later date, signify by saying aye. Any nays? Ordinance is tabled. All right, thank you very much. We'll get back to that on another day, like you said. I think that's probably in the best interest of the town to take a little bit more time to look at that, because there are some questions about it. So, all right, okay, very good. All right, so that is all of the ordinances that we were looking at tonight. Mayor's report. Let me give you just a couple of things here, and we'll try to move it right along. I had a jobs report in front of me just a little bit ago. Here it is right here. jobs report. Hardin County, is a, 4.3 unemployment, which is not terrible considering other counties around us. Lake County, up on, the other end of the state, is, about 5.4%. Decatur, 5.4%. Haywood, 5.2%. We hope that changes with Blue Oak coming in, but anyway, we're not doing too bad. Small Business Association fact sheet was provided to me. If you know anyone that has been impacted by the storm and they have lost their business, they can apply for a loan and grant and everything else through Small Business Administration. They don't need to wait on insurance. They don't need to wait on FEMA. They need to go ahead and apply for this loan. I've got information here, but they can go to the Small Business Administration and make that happen. And I believe they were set up in Trump here a few weeks ago to help anybody. I have forwarded this information to 2 people I know that have businesses in our area that live, over toward Dickey Landing area that were pretty devastated in that. So, anyway, you have that before you. I went to the Southwest Tennessee Development meeting this week on the executive board. Had a lot of good discussion there about some potential grants coming up, other things going on. They are going to rent out the top floor of that office to a job organization, like a careers organization, to help people find employment, and that will serve this whole region. There are
May I ask what kind of grants are coming up? Can you go
Sure,
generally?
sure. I've talked to the conservation and environment folks. There are a few different grants coming up with them. They couldn't identify those because they're coming up next year. So they advised me that there are going to be some grants relating to parks and other environmental things that, even dealing with our senior citizen center, that we should not apply for any of the grants right now. We need to wait until the 2024 grants come out, because they're going to change the matching from like 50% to 10%. So there's going to be a big push, and Gerald Parrish with the Environment and Conservation, and I want to say Randy Parker, that they're going to come back. We met a couple weeks ago about these. So they have a couple of people in their organization that's going to help us do a parks plan for the town so that we can qualify for grants. So there are some grants that you have to qualify for, and you got to have other documentation. So that's the biggest thing. The other thing is talking about, the doctor's office, trying to make some network there about some opportunity to get a grant to help get a doctor in that building, or a LPN or something like that. Miss Jill Holland, she is in charge of a lot of those grants. I say in charge of them. She had that network of grant writers and things. Casey Smith, who is in that whole team that helped us with the siren, that whole group. So there's some more things coming out, and we've been in quite a bit of dialogue. I will say, around town, you probably noticed, we just did some things today. Mr. Jernigan, our maintenance guy, and then him and Carl, been doing some work planting plants. I think Alderman Morgan, Alderman Maynard helped with that. You've seen some new spring flower things put up. Alderman Maynard worked on some things down on the river landing to get the spring flowers going. So we got a lot of that going on. We do have on shift, not today, but this past weekend, our part-time officer who is post-certified. It took us a little while to get him on shift, and let me explain to you a couple things. When we say part-time, to us, it's less than 40 hours, okay? For him to remain certified, he's got to work a minimum of 20 hours a week. So he is, according to Post, he's the full-time officer because he's mandated to work 20 hours a week. But according to us and our budget, we see him as part-time because he only works 20 hours a week. So there was some confusion trying to get him on the shift, because I was telling him he's not full-time. We don't have a full-time officer. But for him to remain post-certified and get all of his training done, he's got to work a minimum of 20 hours. So in our budget, when we have our budget planning session, we need to look at that cost, because it may be a little bit more than what we thought about in the past about what we're going to pay an officer. as far as the number of hours. It'd be mandated 20 hours. He might work 25, but he's gotta work 20, okay? So Chief Graves, he's been working on that quite a bit to get this officer on shift. Speaking of the officer on shift, I'll let you all know and let the community know that if there is an issue that is life-threatening, you need to call 911. You don't need to call the mayor and tell me you got a problem. You don't need to call Chief Graves or Officer Wilbanks and say, hey, I got a burglary going on. You need to call 911, okay? Now, if the neighbor's dog is barking all night and you think you have a problem, don't call the mayor at 10 o'clock and tell me a dog is barking down the street. You call Central Dispatch and let them know you need an officer to come to your property for that. We pay a lot of money to dispatch services, and so we need to call dispatch because they will certainly dispatch that officer. If he's on duty, he'll be right there. If Chief is on duty, you know, he'll get there. So I've had a couple of calls this week that wasn't really, I mean, I don't mind people calling, don't get me wrong. If you got a problem, I'd like to know about it, but dog barking at 10 o'clock may not be high on my list, okay? So, anyway, just keep in mind, we want people to be protected, we want people to be safe, and there are some key citizens that we have in town that assist us with resolving problems that may, you know, have some prone to happen. So they do have a direct line for me and other folks to say, hey, look, you might want to think about this. So I would call them my advisors or the police department advisor just to help us, because we, in our community, everybody's got to pitch in. You all got to be eyes and ears. But just, you know, rule of thumb, the general public, there's two means of doing that. Now, certainly, they can call my office or the chief's office. They can call, send me an email. They can, you know, things that are not life-threatening. All of that, you know, we need to kind of consider that. I don't know how the chief works. He must stay up 24 hours a day, because every time I call him, he's there. I got to sleep at night, okay? So, you know, if you call me at midnight and I don't answer, it might be because I'm asleep. So I'm not trying to deter any alderman, anybody else here to call me. You call me if you want to, if you need to. But just be mindful, if you think you really got a problem, the police need to handle, absolutely call dispatcher 911, because we do have two great people on our department that can handle those things. So, all right, okay, sirens. I got news today. We've got all the components in the building, on the floor. They said it's probably gonna be 3 weeks before they start working on it. They've had some weather delays, but they said they'd call me later in the week and try to give me a date. So 3 weeks before May is out. He told me today, before May is out, they'll try to get started. Let's see, events coming up: River Day, September 16th, Poker Run, July 29th, Barbecue Battle on the River, August 25th and 26th. Music on Main has been questioned. Somebody had asked me about doing a little event, special event, to have some music a few weeks in a row or whatnot through the summer. So that you may hear more about that later, because I don't know enough about it right now, but some people have asked. Okay, so I think that is all of the mayor's report. Let's see, I'm gonna skip around to alderman report. We have any aldermen need to make a report? You know, okay, all right. We'll move on. Financial report. Let's take a look at that. In your account balances, you see what is before you there. Again, remember, you need to continue to think about the ARPA funds. We've got a pretty good bit of money there. When we meet in our planning session, we may want to discuss setting some of that aside for some potential grants in the future. So you see what we have. We're doing really good right now on our budget. We still have a couple of people paying taxes. Those are still coming in a little bit at a time. And Ms. Jackson, do you have any idea about percentage-wise about what has been paid at all?
I think we have like $7,500 left that's unpaid for 22
Okay.
out of the original 50,
Okay.
50 plus.
All right, statement of revenues and expenditures, you have that before you. And of course, the property tax you see year-to-date at the top of that and through that line. I know you've already reviewed some of this already. We have had some expenses that we didn't plan to have, trying to get our marked police car up to par to get on the road. We had to buy a few things for that. They come out of that general fund from our police department. We've had the fire truck, I think it's called Engine 2. They finally got that thing fired up and running. So we had to spend a little bit of money on it to get it going. So it's running.
I
They
thought
tell
it
me.
was on fire down there at the lane the other day. There's
Well,
black smoke coming out.
That's one of those things that the mayor got called about. They got a war going on at the store down there. Anyway, so, you know, it was snapping and cracking pretty loud, but they got it worked out. So anyway, but if you look at page 5, revenues over expenditures, actual year to date, you can see that we are doing quite well on our budget. We're trying to be mindful. I will tell you that we are needing to do some additional planning on our budget. And I would like for you all to look at your calendar and see if you're available. I think it's Tuesday, May 16th. That gives you 2 weeks thereabout to be in a budget planning session. I don't know if any of you are available. 6 o'clock, May 16th, that we can look at our budget. Those things like we mentioned about the officer, his hours, a few other things leading up to the budget being due July the 1st. So does anybody have any concern about inability to be at a planning session? No decision will be made. It'll just be planning, talking about our budget, trying to get some things set, establish some.
At 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, yeah. Anything? Everybody?
Good with it.
So,
I'll know tomorrow, Mayor.
Okay.
I'll text you.
yeah, let us know. And like I said, let's go ahead and plan May 16th. Is that right? Yeah, May 16th. That's a Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Planning session. We'll have to post that in the newspaper and all that good stuff. Okay. So doing real well on our budget. We have spent a little money on landscaping a little bit. In our landscaping budget that you see, that you've already reviewed, you know, we don't have a lot of money in that, but it makes a big difference for people that's coming to town. They're coming from all over to visit, be it for a festival or be it for just to come and check out Saltillo or enjoy the beautiful Tennessee River, okay? Department reports, we have any reports from any departments? Okay, all right. At this point in time, any citizens' comments, concerns, or commendations, you may take the floor. Anyone?
One thing, Greg,
Yes, sir.
don't you ever depend on Hardin County Sheriff and them to get down here. When you call, don't you ever depend on them.
Don't depend on
68 years I've been down here. I called one night,
Yeah.
shooting going on next to my house.
Yeah.
They didn't come. 4 weeks later, the boy shot and killed his wife. Said they ain't got nobody. Don't you ever depend on them. They're not gonna come
Yeah.
75% of the time. They give you excuse.
My experience is they come, it just takes a long time.
They
They
don't
could've-
show up a lot of times.
When I've called, you know, well, I didn't call, someone was using my house, and they called, you know, couldn't get the alarm off, and so it automatically sent the message, but, they did show up, you know.
I've heard, we're on the south end of the county, we've only got 2 cars. We can't make it right now. I've heard that for years.
Yeah.
I've left the paper mill one day after we had trouble down here. They said they had 2 cars. I went through the 4-way stop south of the dam. 4 county cars with people sitting there doing nothing. I'm just telling you,
I
beware.
got you. Any other
I have a
comments? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, like the new officer, what hours, what days is he working?
Okay. He works randomly. We are trying to steer him mostly to the weekend and mostly in the evenings.
Good.
But I'm not gonna say that he is working a specific day or time. But he is mostly weekend, mostly evening. But if we have an issue like I've heard about recently with a couple of things that he may be called to work at different times. So he works at my discretion or the chief's discretion, but, and this weekend was his first weekend on the ship, so, you know, we're trying to really still look at, hey, where's your best service at? But yes, it's minimum of 20 hours he has to be at work, but doesn't mean he's gonna be on the street 20 hours, because he also has to maintain his certifications, you know, training and that kind of stuff, so, anyway, but yes, he is 20 hours a week, maybe more, depending on what's going on, but, yeah.
Well, we've had a lot of loud vehicles flying up and down the highway out there too, so,
Yeah.
you know, those gravel trucks are up and down 104,
Yeah.
and I think
I
that
guess.
presents a dangerous situation.
Yeah. I agree with you on that, and I will tell you, just from seeing him work this last few days, he's made quite a few stops, and so he is on the job. I think he's gonna be great for our town to slow some of that traffic down and to alleviate any other studiousness in the neighborhood.
There's no doubt the other day when I told you about that truck running 100 plus going towards Handy Corner by my house.
Yeah.
They saw him and they turned around because they was coming back 2 minutes later, 100 mile an hour
Oh,
again.
yeah. I got you.
So they saw him.
Yeah, he's gonna be good for our town. Any other questions, or, excuse me, any other comments by citizens? Anybody? No. Okay. All right. So, again, the officers are at your service. I'm at your service. These aldermen, you should be at people's service. You're gonna have people talk to you about different things, and you're free to tell them what policy is and ordinances are, but you can also refer them to me if you don't know. If you don't know the answer, you don't know. I might not know. I had to go find out, you know, so some of the things that come to us, we may not know at that moment, but we can certainly find out, okay? So, I appreciate your service tonight. I appreciate you all coming, and, at this point in time, if we can get a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
A motion has been made and signified, your agreement by saying aye.
Uh,
All right, motion to adjourn has been made.